All right. Hello and welcome to Rockland Public Library's Zoom program, Creating Calm in a Chaotic World, Stress Reduction Tips and Techniques. My name is Jessie Blanchard and I'll be co-hosting this with my coworker, Patty King. And those kittens right there, that's all you need. That's the end of it. Stress relieved. Just kidding. It's actually brought to you by Anxiety Girl, able to jump to the worst conclusion in a single bound. Just kidding also. But one of the first things that we're going to talk about is anxiety. And I'm going to flip to this. Since there's just, two of you there still, we'd like you to do a little self-check-in. This isn't going to take much, just a couple of seconds, maybe 5 to 10. To figure out how you are feeling right now. You don't have to share that with us. Just kind of give it a thought. Here's some things that anxiety might look like.
And when you think about anxiety, I think we think of it as looking one way or another. We think of somebody with giant hair that is just really frenetic and upset, but anxiety doesn't have to look just like being worried. There are many ways that it exhibits itself.
I can remember when I was in high school, Patty, having friends that would say they were about ready to have a panic attack or were having a panic attack, and you kind of thought they were maybe being a bit dramatic because you can't really see what they're feeling like. Now I know that can come out in many, many different ways, especially, all of these, the excessive behavior, the overindulgence, lack of concentration, which I think we've all, regardless of an anxiety disorder, have had since we've had to start wearing masks and not really see each other. I'm just going to talk a little bit about this slide. I found this, I don't remember where I found it, but it's an adaptation of a tool that's used by the military and by emergency services to evaluate their own personnel in the middle of a crisis or a war or, anything that they're doing in order to determine whether or not they are still fit to be in their job. It's adapted so it doesn't apply to that specific field anymore, but you can just read through it really quickly and see some of the things that you might think about. I didn't really even realize until I saw this that maybe back in April or May, when it was really unsure of what was going on, that I myself might be sort of in this orange zone. So it's sort of like you might think that you're getting along, and if you really take a look at the things that you're feeling, it may turn out that you might need a little bit of help, even if that just means coming to a stress relief program with your librarians. Next slide.
So stress is, it's easy when you're stressed out to let everything get mashed together in one giant bundle of stress, but it really helps to actually just identify what is actually stressing you out. Think about it, break things down, make a list and give it some structure, take it away from being that giant swirling cloud and put structure into it. And also think about how sometimes we worry about things that are not likely to happen. You can cross those off your list, get those out of your brain, and think about the things that really you do need to think about.
It's almost like a form of triage. You got to prioritize what needs to be dealt with now. I think that's on the next slide.
Yes.
Sort of make a list of what has to be dealt with now. If you haven't eaten in 3 days, thing you probably ought to do is make yourself some food. If you haven't slept in 3 days, then that's probably going to be your biggest priority. The laundry, the dishes, paying the cable bill might be stressors for you, but it might be just down towards the end of the list. And then one of the things you can do is just say, this is what I can, and this is what is out of my control. Look at the things that you can do and make a plan for how those can work easier for you. I think we have an action plan for the things that you can do. So that just sort of sums up.
Yeah. And really it is just, I mean, it's important, back to that a few slides ago, taking away just that big stress ball and just looking at one thing at a time, seeing if you can eliminate sources of stress. And, moving on to the what kind of healthy activity can you do to help you deal with this stress?
We've got suggestions for that. Those will come up in a minute.
They will. Yeah.
Excuse me. This is just another reiteration of what we were saying before, especially when now that we're all wearing masks all the time and we know how important that is to be doing, you can kind of not really realize that breathing is difficult. Especially when you're outdoors, or I don't know if this time of year anybody's noticed, you sort of have your indoor mask and your outdoor mask, because as soon as you go outdoors with your mask, you're full of condensation and snot, and then you can't breathe all over again. So one of the things you can do is just take your mask break, even if you have to sit in your car by yourself to do that, and practice some slow breathing. Breath is probably one of the best ways to reconnect with figuring out the way your body feels.
And I think, I'd say like so often we're just doing, going. And just the effort of slowing down and breathing, as Jessie said, we don't think about how important breathing is. And now I think that we have masks on. We do.
I think we're figuring it out now.
Yeah.
Take away, the 10th of your air, and then, yeah, there's a reason why people are upset about that. And I think a little foggy brain. But that's how we're going to get through this. Here's a couple coping strategies. If you're a writer or you like to make notes, you can try just putting this stuff down on paper. What needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done. Be realistic. Start saying no. Overscheduling is one of the sort of symptoms and the drawbacks to being stressed out. You sort of start saying, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, and then you start failing, and that's going to be even more stressful. So say no to extra responsibilities and don't feel bad about it.
And, looking at just doing one thing at a time. And I think so many times we are brought up in a society that multitasking is king. And I think we're learning a lot now. Multitasking isn't necessarily a good thing. Really diving deeply into one task at a time is a good thing to do for your spirit, your mind, and everything.
Yeah, unless, you're like me, and the whole idea of keeping a to-do list is stressful in itself, because then where did I put that? But if that happens, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just make a new list. There's always pencils and paper out there. Another thing is, don't try to be a superhero. If you are actually doing okay and you have some folks around you that are maybe not doing okay, and you need to set a boundary as to how you deal with that, then do that, because you can't be everything to everybody in this kind of environment. I lost the notes for this slide. So
right.
Don't be a superhero is a pretty obvious one.
It
ask
is.
for help.
Yeah. Yep.
We have, just like Patty was just saying, we sort of live in this society where multitasking is I don't know, that's how we measure success. How many different things can we possibly be doing all at once and seemingly handle them? It isn't really necessary for, I think, most of us. It's hard to break out of that pattern once you get started on it. but just taking a deep breath and being able to say no is one. Going easy on the criticism also. It's really easy to get sort of unhappy or snappy or confused if somebody else is maybe abrupt or snippy or just not seeming right or friendly. And it's, I think we have it maybe on the next slide, to just take a deep breath, count to 10 and think, this person's going through something just like we are. So having high expectations for some social or maybe professional interactions, they just might not be there. Let's see.
And this is something that Dick actually mentioned in the comments. He said, choose to snooze the news. So, and I think, yeah, right now, this is it's a good time to snooze the news. Information about the coronavirus, there's a lot of political information, there's an information overload. And on the flip side, if you want to still seek out information, go, this is specific to the coronavirus, but going to the CDC, going to the World Health Organization, and, check them once or twice a day. Don't spend your whole time, whatever type of news you're taking in, don't spend your whole day doing that, because it's overwhelming.
Yeah, didn't we? I don't know if it was something that we have on another slide or we'd gotten rid of it, but there was one suggestion, I think, Patty, that said actually scheduling 2 times a day for yourself to go look at the news or go look at things. Give yourself 10 minutes each time, set an alarm for it, make it a routine pattern, and then be done with it outside that. Unless there's something, in your life personally that needs to be dealt with that may be, on social media or something. And I thought that was a good suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know where that went. Another part of this, and this is more on the things you cannot do anything about. Realize there are things you cannot do anything about, even if you want to. Some things are just simply out of our control, even if we have to change what we're doing, like we have been. But emotion-focused strategies can help you with that. What did we say last night? Primal screaming in the car and maybe possibly throwing a snowball or two.
Yeah. So, I mean, thinking about that, like screaming into a pillow, I think this, is looking at going on a walk. I think in this time when we're in front of screens so much, taking advantage of nature, just even if you can't take a walk, and if that's not easy for you, if you're able to just go outside and breathe and just even notice your yard, because things are different every minute when you look around.
Yeah. Especially now, especially today and yesterday and the day before that.
Yeah.
And emotion focused is basically like an example I have in the notes is, you say have some aging parents, you can't help but worry about those things, but at the same time, you can't actually do anything about what's going on there. So these are just some ways that you can recognize that your reactions are being based on your emotions, and that you need to deal with it these are some examples of the ways that you can deal with that without stressing yourself out even more. It may make you function a little better. I know Patty and I both are huge advocates of walking in the woods.
Yes, very much so.
And baking. Well, I am.
Oh, I love to cook.
Constantly baking.
Yeah.
There is a cookbook out there called Rage Baking. Here's another one, is to create some networks of social support. So when you have times of higher stress, it seems like the last thing you want to do is bother people with that, or seem needy, or even admit that you do need some help. But the very absolutely worst thing you can do is not share that. So finding other people that have either the same issues or that can help you share your concerns and problem solve with your pals, with your family. and then let those people know that you will be there for them also.
Yeah. And one of my favorite ideas on this is the regular check-in schedule to give you something to look forward to. I know that my housemate Zooms with her family every Saturday morning, and I can just hear them laughing together over Zoom. And I think, these are people who are spread out across the United States, and they're just hanging out, telling stories and laughing together. So,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Sorry, Betty.
Oh no, and I was going to say you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that on Zoom. I mean, you could do a good old fashioned phone call as well. So,
Yeah, phone calls. I have a friend that we've actually just decided to start writing because, like you said, the thing that you can look forward to. We know that the FaceTime is there. We know the phone is there. We text each other, 3-4 times a day. But having that card in the mail is something that just keeps you remembering that somebody's there, that somebody's keeping an eye out for you. And even like my son, I have a 12-year-old son who was unable to go to school for the whole last half of his 5th grade year, and barely at all now this year. But he has a cousin in Washington State that he gets on FaceTime with, and they play games together every single day. And in some senses, that's brought them closer together, which is super important. And then next, we're going to talk about self-care. Some ideas for self-care. Self-care is, what do you describe that as, Patty? I think it kind of goes beyond the get up, eat nutritious food, brush your teeth, take a shower. That's obvious self-care.
yeah, that can be self-care if you're not doing those on a regular basis. And I think a lot of people swing self-care into kind of going to get a pedicure or something like that, but it doesn't have to be that. It's just, taking care of your basic needs and your physical and emotional needs, and remembering yourself. I think we want to take care of everyone, and we forget to take care of ourselves. So I think it's essential. I think, there are multiple sayings about, not being able to fill each other and anybody else's cups if your own is not filled. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I also kind of think of it as a bank account.
Yeah.
You're not spending what you don't have, and if you're not,
Yes.
fulfilled enough, then what you are giving isn't going to be enough for the people that you're trying to give to anyway. So here's a couple of a cute little slide with a couple of ideas for self-care. Some of them may seem indulgent, but I even like the one that says paying bills. I have a routine for every Wednesday morning when my paycheck goes into my bank account. I have to remember Wednesday morning is bill paying day. So I get up, 10 minutes earlier, sit down, pay whatever bills I need. And there's something extremely satisfying about that. Maybe just the fact that I can, but it does feel like kind of a way of self-care, because then you can kind of move on feeling a little tiny bit lighter and broker throughout the day.
And in the chat box or later, I'm curious to know if you all are participating in any of these types of self-care, or if there are some other types of self-care that you use. And I'd love to hear about that in the chat box. And then also when we're done with the presentation, we can talk about those too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is just, I find this a little bit tricky to go about, but I think it's important to know yourself. There are definitely ways that self-care can turn into indulgences, and indulgences that can turn into bad habits. These 4 things are just some examples: food, drugs, alcohol, or nicotine. Can be helpful, but you also have to know yourself. And if you have any problems with these things, don't do them, don't try them, and don't maybe take an extremely stressful part of your time of your life to try to give up something that you can't, you know, like if you really have a struggle with, say, food or cigarette smoking, and you decide right now that you're going to say quit, it may just be that much more stressful. You might schedule something like that for, you know, looking at, part of self-care would be looking at it towards the future. You know, when we're able to take our masks off and breathe again as a society, maybe I'll cut down on this or that. But it's just most importantly to just know yourself and also not use it as an excuse. Hey, we're in a pandemic, I'm going to drink myself into an oblivion every night. A glass of wine is always nice, but just make sure that you know how you handle those things and try not to create more problems.
And if you are somebody that has problems or addiction issues, back to the earlier slide, is just making sure you're reaching out to a network of friends and a network of people. And I know that right now, I think that's a much more difficult experience for people who have addictions to do. So, but finding those connections. Yeah.
Yep. And on the other side of that, if you know somebody that had been maybe previously struggling or had even gotten to a point of giving up a habit, reach out to them if you think that they might be falling back into it because of our current situation. And now it's time for some humor. So I am not self-medicating with chocolate. The lady at the shop wrote me a prescription. Well, she called it a receipt, whatever. I think that's a good one.
Yes.
Thanks for choosing that one, Patty.
Oh, yeah.
And another way you can deal with it is
physical activity. And whatever that looks like to you, it doesn't mean you have to decide, okay, we're going through this stressful pandemic. Now is the time. I have never run at all, but I am going to, and I don't really know how to swim, and I can marginally bicycle, but I'm going to be a triathlete. You could decide to do that. But, you know, I think in terms of physical activity, doing what brings you joy is the most important thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. What you're going to end up keeping up with is what makes you feel good, and not beating yourself up. Yeah. If you try something like, hey, maybe I will start learning how to run, and you get so that you can get a mile and you really just don't like it, don't keep doing it. Try something different, you know, mix it up a little bit. Yeah. It definitely works though, as far as making yourself feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I can say personally, both Jessie and I generally in the morning, I work out in the morning, I get up, I'm not usually enthusiastic about getting up and exercising, but it really frames my day and puts my mind in the right direction. And for me, I love to walk around my neighborhood, but I'm a big proponent of YouTube fitness videos. I found a lot of excellent fitness instructors via YouTube.
Yeah, you turned me on to those too. And now we kind of do, well, individually, but keep each other in check anyway. Yeah, I get up every morning and I do yoga. And one of the things that the yoga lady says is the hardest part is just getting there. You're sitting down, you're on your mat. The rest is easy because you've gotten there. And I think for most of us, that is the hardest part. The actual getting up out of the bed, putting on the coffee, and just doing it. Yes. The rest takes care of itself. Go. Ooh. So we have a little meditation here if you'd like to try it. Let's see. You said I can do this, right?
You should be able to.
I didn't use the headphones, so yeah. I think it's only what, a minute and a half or 2 minutes.
It's pretty
and
short.
You can look at the goofy cartoon or you can close your eyes. But it's a suggestion. In sometimes guided meditation is helpful. I find guided meditation more helpful, but sometimes just knowing how to do it and having just the silence is more helpful to some people. But here's just an example. We'll put this on.
Take a moment to imagine a bright blue sky stretching off into the distance. Feels pretty good, right? This is a perfect metaphor for the mind, a blank canvas on which thoughts, feelings, and experiences appear. Okay, so maybe there are just a few clouds, but they tend not to bother us or distract us too much, especially if they're the cute little fluffy variety. This is how the mind appears when it's calm, bright, serene, and happy. But life isn't always easy. Sometimes there are a lot more clouds in the sky. Sometimes it might be the dark and stormy variety. Occasionally, we might even begin to wonder if a hurricane's on the way. It gets to the point that it's hard to think of anything else. In fact, sometimes we get so obsessed by the clouds that we forget about the blue sky altogether. But it's still there. Every time you're in a plane and you fly through the clouds, there it is, right? Without fail, blue sky. It's easy to forget that what we're looking for is already here. And that's why we need reminding.
Of course, if your guided meditation coach has got a cute little British accent, it might even be easier. How do I get rid of him? Oh, just move on.
You just move on to a new slide.
Okay.
It's okay.
Ah, ah. There.
Don't bust yourself out.
All right. Meditation. I can talk a little bit about that. I don't currently have a meditation practice, but I have had, and it isn't easy, but the most important thing to remember is that it is a practice. So there's so many people, myself included, that have tried it maybe once or twice and said, I can't get everything out of my head. It doesn't work. I can't do it. When the point is that it is a practice. So even if you sit for 2 minutes and you have to tell yourself 20 times in those 2 minutes to just go back to focusing on your breath, focusing on listening to your breathing, that's your practice. And then next time you go back, you might only have to tell yourself to do that 19 times and then maybe 18 times. The sort of idea of it is that the more you do it, the better you get at it, just like any other practice. And that the goal is not to just empty your mind completely. It's to look at your thoughts objectively and try to let go of them, to make space for peace, really. If you can get into it, it's so beneficial. We're going to show you, I think, an example of a body scan meditation. There's so many different kinds of meditation or ways that you can go about it, but this is one that can help if you're a beginner. The way that this lady is sitting with her legs crossed against the pillows is really nice, but you don't have to do that. You can sit with your feet on the floor. You can sit with your arms in a chair. You can do this laying down. Patty, I think you mentioned you can do it while you're walking, really. Not maybe near traffic, but basically a body scan meditation is quietly telling yourself to focus on different parts of your body, starting with your very toes or soles of your feet, and just putting your awareness there, putting your thoughts there, even if you have to in your mind say the names of the parts. Toes, here's my toes, here's what they're feeling like, here's my ankles, here's my calves are tight, oh, here's my knees, my left knee's sore, and sort of going all the way up your body to the crown of your head. Just a 5-minute body scan can decrease your, right down there, it reduces stress, it can lower your blood pressure, it can decrease your muscle tension, and just make you more aware of how you feel. And it's one way to really take care of yourself. I don't know why nobody ever suggests going the other way around, but they never do. They never start with your head and go down to your toes. I don't know why that is.
Maybe you get stuck in your head.
Maybe you want to maybe like go from the top down, because when it's your feet touching the ground is what's, grounds you. And a lot of people get a lot of benefit out of feeling grounded. Yeah, maybe I'll try that sometime.
Awesome. And I think the next slide, mindfulness goes kind of hand in hand with meditation. Mindfulness is being in the present moment, and the present moment is what we have. We can't live in the past. We can't live in the future. We have this moment. And so pay attention to this moment. And mindfulness can be practiced in multiple ways in multiple places, washing your hands, doing the dishes, taking a walk. Once again, I can't say enough positive things about taking a walk. Just being outdoors, feeling fresh air, seeing people, seeing animals, watching nature. It's a healing balm, definitely.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, I'm going to use the washing your hands and doing the dishes. I would never own a house or live in a house that didn't have a kitchen sink that had a window, that looked out over a window, because I don't even mind doing the dishes, because one of the things that I like to do is stare out the window while I'm doing dishes. But that's not actually what mindfulness is. Mindfulness would be more like paying attention to what dish I'm washing, paying attention to how this water makes me feel, or this sponge feels on my hand, or the little cracks in the plate you just washed. When you're going to get all the gross goobers off, but you know what I mean? Really saying, or even having to say to yourself, like, this is where I got this dish. This is cool. Or this is, where this water comes from, or how. That's one way of being mindful. I'm just going to throw this out because I feel like talking about it. But one way also to not be mindful is, I have a 12-year-old son who is very into video gaming, and I love him dearly, and he's extremely smart and creative. But the thing that he likes to talk about the most in the world is his video gaming. I think somebody can tell when you're not being mindful, because when you're just going, okay, oh, how did that go? Oh yeah, okay. I couldn't tell you a darn thing about anything he ever tells me about the video games, because I'm not being mindful. It's probably not fair, but I'm not being mindful. So really, when it says be in the moment, look at that person. If you can't really bring yourself to pay attention to their words, pay attention to their face, pay attention to the way their nose wrinkles up, or the way their hair curls around, or the way they breathe when they talk. That would also make you a little bit more mindful of that person's existence.
This is just, this is just an image that kind of expresses what I said, was that, your body is present as your mind. Where are you? Where are you at? Are you in the present, or are you in the past or future?
Because all we have is this moment.
Yep.
Positive thinking.
It's a tough one.
It is.
I don't always do it, but it is extremely helpful. The idea of turning negative thoughts around. And it is also positive thinking, just like meditation is a practice, positive thinking is a practice as well.
Yeah. And you can kind of look at it, and I just thought of this, so maybe it doesn't work right, but it's almost like giving it the benefit of the doubt, whatever it is. If you're instantly like, God, this, give it the benefit of the doubt that maybe that's not what it was, and you can kind of turn it around into a positive spin. Mm-hmm. Start practicing your positive PR.
Yes. Going along with positive thinking is gratitude. Having a practice of gratitude. And once again, that takes us, like, everything ties together, because that gratitude takes us kind of into the present moment also. Thinking about, an idea for gratitude. This idea is just saying, name 3 things you're grateful for: a person, a thing, an experience. You also can do gratitude journaling, and daily you can record new things you're thankful for, or things that you've overcome. we're all pretty strong and resilient, and we don't often take the time to recognize that. So taking the time, and after you do gratitude journaling, take a look at it. Take a look at it every day, especially during difficult times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's easy. Sorry, not hard. It's easy to take things for granted. And if you can, I think I would add to that, if there's a person that comes up, let them know.
Yes.
Let them know that you're grateful, because it just means so much more, to be able to share it.
Yay! Yes. Be open to humor. Oh, look at that. Oh, all right. Yes. Yeah. So laughter and smiling, they help. They help so much. Look for humor in yourself. Look for humor in situations. When you can, like this says, when you can laugh, you feel less stressed. And it's true.
Yeah. And also that everybody's got sort of a different level of tolerance to humor. Yes. I know, some people can laugh at things that other people maybe can't laugh at yet. But it's definitely the way to go. Mm-hmm. You're laughing makes you feel better. I think we have some jokes coming up.
Oh, we do. We do. Because we're anxiety related. When you can't tell if your chest tightness or difficulty breathing are due to anxiety or the coronavirus, time to panic. So you gotta laugh.
Yeah. Yes, especially at ourselves. Or like this.
And if you take a look at that, so that lotion says stress relief and it's busted on the floor. Pretty much explains my life.
I broke the stress relief bottle.
Yes.
And this was a nice one for when we were really, really locked down. Yes. We're traveling. Today we visit the kitchen again, the capital of the house. Woo! Is there more? Oh, no. Okay, wait. Stop laughing. We're going on.
Stop laughing.
Stop laughing. We're going on to serious things now.
Yes, we actually, in all seriousness, stress and anxiety, there are levels of stress and anxiety that we can manage, but then there are levels of stress and anxiety that we can't manage if we are unable to focus on daily activities, if we're feeling out of control, if our emotions are difficult to manage. Those are time for us to contact our care provider or other folks for assistance, and knowing we need help and knowing that we're not alone.
And we have some of that. I think we actually maybe forgot to mention, Patty, we are not healthcare professionals.
That is correct.
We are librarians, which means that we know how to find the things that you might need, but also we're not the professional evaluators. You would have to do that on your own, or we have a couple of sources here that you can look at for mental health.
Oh, sure. So Strengthen Me or Strengthen Maine, and we can also send all of these slides to you. That came up during the pandemic, and it's a new website with outreach and support services. Maine 211 is an amazing resource. Maine 211 can assist folks with a number of issues, anxiety, but also if you have a friend or a family member who has a substance abuse issue, they can get you connected with help regarding that. It is a place to call where they will connect you with the resource that you need. On the local level, the AAO Food Pantry is amazing, and they also can help out with fuel assistance. I know St. Bernard Catholic Church, they're doing the takeout lunches. on Saturdays at the Salvation Army. There's no prerequisite in terms of income. You can go there and get food. There's takeout lunch at St. Peter's Episcopal Church on Sundays. If you live in the city of Rockland, you can get assistance, or even if I think you're staying in Rockland, you can get assistance from general assistance at City Hall.
And drum roll, please.
And, during times of stress and anxiety, the library is it's a good resource. Both the librarians, but then also like items we have. This is a great book that we got that is the Anxiety First Aid Kit. It's filled with, mindfulness, breathing exercises, body scan meditations. A lot of the things that we talked about today are in this book. We have other items that assist with mental health, that can assist with mental health resources. We also have a lot of movies and books that will help you escape and help you laugh. And so that's
and wellness. We have a lot of wellness resources, not only kits that we've put together based on different kinds of physical activities. So you can take a DVD home that goes along with some of the equipment, like a yoga mat or yoga DVD. But books on meditation, I'll just shout out the one that helped me amazingly, which is a book called 10% Happier by Dan Harris. It's very, very, very helpful for easing yourself into meditation and learning about it from somebody who would definitely never have previously, a skeptical. I think he has another book called that too.
Yes, it does.
Skeptical something. Dan Harris. It's a really good book. It's got a good voice. I think now we can stop recording.
Yeah, so I'll say thank you very much. And we're going to stop recording and we'll give an opportunity for all of us to have a conversation. So, all right.